Hi there. Our story today is titled Duck and Goose. It is written and illustrated by Tad Hills. That means that Tad Hills is both the author and the illustrator. Our characters in this story are Duck and Goose. As we read through this story, think about the details that are happening at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and at the end of the story. Let's begin. "Oh my, what is that?" Duck quacked. "That's a silly question," Goose honked. "It is a big egg, of course." "Of course it is an egg, I know that," huffed Duck. "What I mean is, where did it come from?" Goose looked skyward. He looked to the river. He looked to the field. He thought very hard. "Who are you?" he asked finally. "I," said Duck, puffing out his feathered chest, "am the one whose egg this is. I saw it first." Goose quickly raised one webbed foot. "It's mine. I touched it first." "Hey, you should never put your dirty foot on an egg," Duck scolded. "Don't you know anything about caring for eggs?" "Yes, I do," Goose cried out. "Stop yelling," Duck yelled, then whispered forcefully. "Don't you know that you and your screaming are very likely disturbing the baby bird who is trying to take a snooze inside this egg?" Goose wished that Duck wasn't right. He lowered his head and whispered softly, "I'm very sorry. Go back to sleep in there." "My, that's quite a beauty you have," called a bluebird from across the river. "Thank you. It's mine," quacked Duck. "Actually, it's mine," honked Goose. "Thank you." "So," asked Duck, "what do we do now?" "We should do something," suggested Goose. "Yes, you are right. Good thinking," agreed Duck. "Like what?" Duck and Goose each thought. Friends, this is a great place to pause and talk about what Duck and Goose were thinking of. "Well, we must keep the egg warm until the fuzzy little occupant is ready to come out," said Goose. "Excellent idea!" exclaimed Duck. He pushed past Goose. "Step aside, and I shall do just that." But Goose was quick too. After a flurry of fussing, grunting and groaning, slipping and sliding, honking and quacking, Duck and Goose found themselves back to back. "Scoot over, I don't have any room," complained Duck. "You are much closer to me than I am to you." "Stop yelling in my ear, Goose." "Shh!" Goose hushed, pointing at the round thing beneath them. "Yes, yes, yes, we must remember. Quiet, quiet, quiet. We mustn't disturb the little one." And so they sat, very still and very quiet, waiting. For a long time they waited. They listened to the crickets chirp and the frogs burp. "I am going to teach this baby bird to quack like a duck," Duck boasted. "Well, I am going to teach it to honk like a goose," Goose honked back. "I'm going to teach this baby bird to waddle," Goose added. "So am I," Duck said. They heard the pitter-patter of the rain. "I'm going to teach the baby bird to swim," Duck said. "Me too," Goose said. To pass the time they sniffed wildflowers in the warm sun and shared breadcrumbs while Goose taught Duck to honk. They watched the sunset in the sky and Duck taught Goose to quack. They counted the stars in the night sky. "Let's teach our baby to fly," said Goose. "Good idea," said Duck. "I'm sure our baby will be a fast learner," said Duck. "If it takes after you and me, I'm sure you're right," agreed Goose. Boys and girls, this is a great place in our story to pause and go back to remember what happened at the beginning of the story and what is happening now in the middle. At the beginning, remember, Duck and Goose were arguing over who the egg belonged to. And they seem to be arguing a lot about that. Now, what has happened in the middle of the story? Let's continue on. Together they waited until... Did you feel that, Duck? Duck nodded. Yes. Did you feel that, Goose? Goose nodded. It's time, Goose. It's time, Duck squawked. Quickly, Duck slid down and started running in circles around their egg. What should we do now? He hollered. I think we should remain calm, Goose yelled back. Excuse me, a little voice called out. My friends, who do you think that little voice will be? Let's find out. Duck stopped. In all the exciting confusion, he had failed to notice the blue bird kicking their egg. Can I play too? She asked. Play? This is no time for play, yelled Duck. This is no time for games, yelled Goose. And what's with the kicking? I was only trying to get your attention, said the little bird. Well, you got it, Duck huffed. False alarm. Goose, back to work. Can't you see that we are very busy here? Goose explained to the blue bird. This is serious business. This is perhaps the most important moment of our lives. Oh my, I am sorry, apologized the blue bird. I had no idea. I just thought that maybe I could play with your ball. It really is a nice one, she added, and then she flew away. Goose gulped. Did she say ball? He whispered to Duck. You know, I did have my doubts, Duck finally said. It is a bit squishier than most eggs I've seen. Yes, and I must say I was somewhat suspicious of those big dots, Goose admitted. It may not be an egg, but it is lovely, said Duck. Oh, absolutely, Duck, Goose agreed. It's a keeper. As the crickets chirped, the frogs burped, and the grass swayed in a gentle breeze, Goose quacked and Duck honked, and the ball bounced, rolled, and sometimes even flew. Thank you for reading your story with me this week, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the story of Duck and Goose. Remember to go back and think about the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and how the story ended for our two characters, Duck and Goose.